Hello, everyone. I'm Claude of Beyond Mystic, and welcome to this evening's Wacky Woo Show. With me tonight, of course, is the one and only Mr. Jay Weidner. You can find him at jayweidner.com. Of course, he's the producer of the Clockwork Shining, a Kubrick Odyssey #3, as well as the producer of JFKX, the solving the crime of the century. Jay, welcome back to the show. How are you? And you look good in that hat, Jay.
Well, thank you. I think I do too. I think I am a reincarnated Knights Templar, so why not?
Why not? Thank you so
Yeah.
much, everyone, for joining us here tonight. Of course, the title of the show is Consolamentum. We're going to get into the meaning of that as for the Cathars and how that relates to the time we are in now. So please, folks, let us know where you're watching from here tonight. Excited to have you on the show. We are triple casting on YouTube, X, and on Rumble this evening. We'll try to keep the language at bay so that we can keep the file here on YouTube as well. So welcome, everybody, and let's get started. Jay, as the show title suggests here, let me just change the slide deck for you guys and bring up a page. If you wanted to follow with us, folks, I created a notes page for tonight's episode. If you go to beyondmystic.net/Cathar, see some of the reference material and a few tweets also by Cliff High that we want to get through tonight, as well as a couple of documentaries that might be of interest to you here as we move into this topic. But first, let's get into this consolamentum, of course, the medieval Latin word that refers to a rite of spiritual baptism practiced by the Cathars. It very much feels like a spiritual baptism right now, does it not, with everything that's going on, Jay? What do you think?
Yeah, well, we're at the end of the fourth turning, and we're at the very beginning of the next first turning. And as every fourth turning to the first turning has been absolute craziness through 1945 to 1947, 1865 to 1867, back into the 1700s. So in every 80 years, we go through this big, huge change. It's related to the orbit of Uranus. And you can't, it's very rare to be at one of these turnings. And I've never been to one. I was born after the last one. And wow, what a weird thing is going on. To see Trump dancing with the village people, singing the gayest song ever written tonight, I don't know what to say.
I know, it's a little surreal. I actually have that clip lined up for you guys. We're going to play that. That, of course, is the rally that's happening today on January 19th. The inauguration is still, of course, set for tomorrow, although two major changes. I guess they're brought inside right now. Part of the mainstream news is reporting on the cold weather, and some of the alternative media news is also reporting on continued threats, whether those are radiological and perhaps lone gunman type of situation. So a lot still in play here for tomorrow as we set into the inauguration. Now, you mentioned the alignments of the planets. Guys, if you haven't seen yesterday, Janine and Meg put out this Trump-Pluto-Kazemi alignment that's coming up also. And Pluto, of course, the destroyer of all of these old structures, is very much in the mix here for the next number of years. So we're going to see a level of change that is almost incredulous, I think, for our lives right now. Can you speak about that? I was at dinner with my brother the other night, and I was telling him he just retired and he's trying to figure out, okay, what do I do now? How do I reinvent myself now that I'm retired? And I'm like, well, I think sky's the limit, bro. I mean, we're going to have more changes probably the last 10 years that you and I have had in our lifetime and our parents' lifetime combined. Do you agree with that, Jay? And what do you think those changes are going to look like?
Well, I think we're moving into a place where the technologies that have been there for quite a while are about to be released. They won't be released in the way that we wanted them to be released because they're all cowards. So they're going to release it in an odd way where it's going to look like there's a pedigree to these inventions that actually have been here for like 75, 80 years, but they haven't released them, and they don't know how to explain the fact that they didn't release them and allowed the world to be, destroyed, the environment to be destroyed. And and now it's like there's a group of guys and girls who just don't care anymore. It's like,
Right.
shoot me, right? It's
Right.
like they don't care. And so they're releasing it in the right way. They're not going to release any of these technologies in a way that will they'll get rich on. Or that's not going to happen. Or there's a whole new way of thinking going on right now, and that is to forget patents, just put it out. And from what I hear, you can go to Home Depot and buy everything you need for like under $100, and you'll have a free energy device. And so we're moving really rapidly. You can feel it on all fronts. Even straight arrows on the internet and on mainstream news are now beginning to bring on people like Bob Grenier of the Martin Fleshman Project, and Malcolm Bendall, the Navy guy who's got the thunderstorm generator, and all these things are confluence. They're all moving together into one thing, and they're going to start rapidly. There's The Great Wave is a new book that's out. I forget the author's name. He's an Arab guy. Really, really good book about how this confluence of technologies is now merging together, where technologies that have nothing to do with each other are now going to start working together. In other words, people that are going to start putting things together that are so exotic and strange that it's going to change everything. And the thing is that the United States is, well, they say $35 trillion in debt, but really it's more like 100 trillion if you actually take in Social Security and all of our obligations and everything. So there's no way out of this except for this way. So it's just happening. And then there's guys who are involved in these black projects who are, beginning to be contacted by people who are saying, you are working on illegal projects. You are in violation of the RICO Act. You are working in secret and making a profit at it. And you didn't even pay for it. The taxpayers paid for it. Right. So all of this is happening all at once. Is really exciting. I would say that as far as you're going to really start blowing up here. That's what I predict. And I predict a lot of the alternative media that has the guts to actually put up people that are talking about these things are just going to become to the top. Because who wants to watch videos about the Ukraine war or Gaza or any of that when you can watch videos about hopeful future that we're building? Right. And that's what's going on here. And with the people that Trump chose, which I think are the best cabinet choices of my entire lifetime. It was so funny watching them in front of the Senate. Their IQ was about 5 times higher than the senators, and the senators are like, actually, you could tell they did not actually understand what was being said to them. In a lot of cases, they're like trying to hide it, and they're good at hiding because they're politicians. But they didn't really get it, and they were being schooled by every single one of those people. And here's the thing: if you want a successful revolution, you're in your late 70s, then you do exactly what he did. You choose people in their early 40s, and across the board, because now they're going to be here for 30 to 40 years. So it's a solid thing he's doing. It's selfless, and it's actually the exact opposite of what everybody said he would do. So really, I anticipate a lot of danger too, because the people that don't want this right now, they don't know what to do. They're completely quiet. They boarded up Washington, D.C. and New York City on the day of the election. Clearly, they're leftist cities, so they thought they knew Trump was going to win, and they boarded him up because they thought the leftists would riot. But the leftists have what I call they're fatigued. They've been so angry for so long that there's no fight left in them, and it'll come back. Don't get me wrong. But
they're not done fighting. It's do or die for them. But they are in bewilderment right now as to what's happening and why their old playbook isn't working anymore. You could tell they're all kind of flustered and frustrated with the situation. Keep going.
Yeah, and I had relatives wrote me after the election saying that they wanted nothing to do with me anymore.
Mhm.
Apparently they read my Facebook post or my ex post or something, and I wrote back. I said, "What makes you think I want anything to do with you? I mean, I was just being nice to you."
Right, right.
So yeah, we went out to Thanksgiving dinner, and I was polite to you. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Now if you
Right.
don't want to see me, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's no big thing. In fact, I don't have to hear your stupid stuff anymore. But anyway, so I'm really happy about what's happening, and but I know the dangers that we're in, and now that Trump moved everything indoors, I'm sure he knows the dangers that he's in, and where we're going, I don't know, but I would look for the most amazing litigation. Uh, uh,
Controversy.
because here's the thing, they put Trump through holy hell with the lawfare. And then they
Yeah.
threw Bannon in jail, a 71-year-old guy. They threw him in jail with 4 months and he had to serve the whole term, even though I'm sure you could have gotten out on good behavior. And by the way, they don't want you in jail. Jail's expensive to the government. So if they can find a way to kick your butt out of jail, they will. But they didn't with
Yeah.
Bannon. And now
Yeah.
Bannon's just gone completely crazy. I love it. Don't get me wrong, but he's gone completely crazy. He's like Spitfire warrior, and he's out for blood. And he has Trump's ear, I'm pretty sure. So I would say there's a lot of fireworks about to happen. I would look for people to run and hide, and the next big thing will be the confrontation with the mayor of Chicago and the Homeland Security people. So they've got to let Trump's appointees in. There's no way. They were clearly very superior people. So I don't think so. I think we're in for. Uh, this is the beginning of the first turning, and also the change of the ages is at hand. So
Right.
it's like a whole bunch of things all coming together at once. And for those of us alive to watch it, it's like, yeah, baby, this is awesome.
Yes,
So
indeed. Well, thank you, Jay, for that intro. A couple of things. I did find the book you were mentioning. Let me see if I can bring it up on the screen for the audience members. I think it's this one. Am I correct? The Great Wave?
yeah, the Great Wave, yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, guys, if you're interested in that, please do go check it out. And at the same time, also, please go to Jay Weidner's YouTube channel. I saw this interview you just did on the end of Hollywood with Ryder Lee the other day. So, I really recommend, guys. I did post that on my Twitter that you go check that out.
Uh,
Why don't we take a quick sidebar on Hollywood before we get into the Cathar subject matter for tonight and Trump's future here moving forward. What do you see for Hollywood? I thought it was kind of weird that he would name the three ambassadors to Hollywood: Sylvester Stallone, who's the other guy?
Mel Gibson and
Yes,
John
Mel
Boyd.
and John Voight. Yeah, what a cast of characters. Mel Gibson is interesting in there. Also, having been on the outside speaking against Hollywood for quite some time and being tarnished for doing so. What do you make of Hollywood right now? Is it really over? Does Trump have a chance of bringing it back somehow? What do you think?
Well, no.
Mm,
People don't care about movies anymore. I mean, I, in a way, don't care about movies anymore. I still watch them. I watched a really good movie the other day. What was it called? It was really good. But anyway, uh, uh, but Hollywood will always be there, but they will be making fewer movies, and there's just nothing. There's nothing in the grind. There's nothing.
mhm.
Who wants to see another superhero movie? And so I don't. Upgrade is the movie I just saw. It's came out in 2018. Really good director, Lee Wanell. He did The Invisible Man, which is a
Oh yeah,
really good movie,
yeah.
and he's turning out to be one of my favorite directors. He has a new movie out called Wolfman. I don't know anything about it, so I probably won't
Hmm.
see it for a while. But anyway, what's going to happen here is that movies are going to go more regional, and because you can buy all the equipment you need now for maybe $7,000 to $10,000. You can buy everything that you need to make a feature film. You can buy a Steadicam, you can buy everything. So films are going to go regional. I know screenwriters who made millions of dollars writing screenplays, and I call them up and they say, "Nope. My next screenplay I'm directing. I'm going to do it on my own budget. I'm not going to sell it to Hollywood. I'm done with that crap." And so, because they had to mess with this whole system that would just weigh them down and eventually actually ruin most of their films because it was just compromise after compromise. So I don't think filmmaking is going away. I don't think good films are going away. But I think that this apparatus, and I've been predicting this since the Me Too movement, the apparatus for the funding of movies is changing. And now BlackRock and all those big corporations are now the ones funding Hollywood. Not in the old days, you raised money by going out to, businessmen and, saying, can you put $1 million in my movie and you'll get back 8% or whatever. And so the producer was in charge of all that. But nowadays, BlackRock with their DEI programs and everything are behind it, and they ruined the movie industry. And so did the streaming business ruin the movie industry because there's too much product. So there's nothing unique anymore about movies. It's like, who cares, And I really, not interested in, I hate to say it because I've been interested in movies my whole life, but I don't find the product that is being produced to be very persuasive to me as something I want to waste 2 or 3 hours of my life on.
Right. And
I think I'm not alone.
Aside from the fact that they kind of destroyed Hollywood, you talked about the funding, you talked about the wokeness and all that. There's also right now, if you look at some of the remote viewing from Dick Algayer and the Future Forecasting Group about LA, it very much looks like that area is not going to be faring too well here in the little future. So it could be, as you're saying, we're going to see more of a decentralized aspect here to movie making moving forward. And I think that's a good thing. We'll bring in some fresh new blood and take off this weird machine of wokeness and crazy town that we've seen in Hollywood in the last 10 or 15 years or so. Let's get into this, Jay. We have, let's see if I can bring this back. Yes, the cover of Time magazine. He's back. Mr. Trump is back. We'll see. Again, we're looking at tomorrow. We're expecting perhaps some fireworks as well tomorrow. Cliff did send me 2 snapshots here, one from yesterday and one from today from the data sets here. We're going to be looking into that as well here later on in the show, guys. But first, I want to share with you guys part of his speech tonight here at the rally. So let me cue that up for you guys. It'll be 3 minutes in or so, and then we'll come back for commentary.
Now, after all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. With your help, we will restore America's promise, and we will rebuild the nation that we all love so much. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will never give up. We will never back down, and we will never, ever surrender. We will fight, and we will win. And together, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. What a great victory for everybody. Thank you, America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll listen to a little bit of Village People here. I mean, Jay, this was the craziest pre-inauguration show in the history of the United States. I don't know if you saw earlier in the night too, Kid Rock was performing. Absolutely crazy stuff. What did you make of it? Did you have a chance to watch this earlier?
Oh yeah, I couldn't miss it. It was too hilarious. No, I think that Donald Trump is the greatest troll of all time, and using the Village People in the gayest song ever written as his theme song. You know what that does to the mind?
Other than blow up the heads of the
Completely
Democrats.
blows everything up. And
Right.
him there dancing with them, I don't know. I thought
Mhm.
I was going to burst out laughing when I
Yeah.
saw this today. And it made me happy. It was hilarious. And, Trump's got a great sense of humor. That's what I think. There's an old joke. How many liberals does it take to screw in a light bulb? And then the response is, that's not funny. And I think that's kind of what's going on. They don't have a sense of humor. They don't understand that they're being trolled. And instead of laughing with it, they get angry. And
Right.
that's why I don't mind not getting invited to people's houses anymore. So this is hilarious. I mean, the funniest thing I've ever seen. I mean,
Very, very quickly, though, have you seen a lot of people having trouble mentally with this new presidency coming in, the Trump tariffs, the North American kind of union he's talking about? I've seen a few of our normie friends really lose it in the last couple of weeks, and they just like shut down. They're kind of like in a ball, like in the fetus position. They can't deal with this reality at all, even though you and I and other friends have been telling them it was coming for so long. They can't take it right now. Do you think they have a chance of waking up? Like, what do you think?
no. No. What's happened is that they believed their media, the Rachel Maddows and everything, for 8 years, and then it all blew up in their faces. And we weren't
Yeah.
watching any of that media, so we didn't know what was going on over there. I know I certainly wasn't. And it wasn't really until after Trump won that I started looking back at what the other side was actually watching, to realize that, oh my God, they have a completely different view of what's happening here. And they completely thought that Kamala was way ahead. And then when it happened, they came to the absolute realization that the pollsters that they watched, the shows that they watched, the newspapers that they read, everybody was wrong.
It was all a lie.
So we're in this position now where they are literally have to remake their reality. Some are ahead of the others. Cenk Uygur has, he's gotten out in front, and Zuckerberg has gotten out in front, trying to get out in front.
Big rebrand, yeah.
But we don't believe them, and we welcome you. Come on in,
Sure.
but you sit in the back row and you listen. Because
Yeah.
we're not listening to anything you said, and we don't forget what Cenk was saying about us 8 years ago. It was awful.
Exactly.
And it's fun, and I've never had more entertainment in my whole life. So that's why I don't need to watch movies anymore.
Right, exactly. Okay, guys, let's get into the Cathar segment. Again, if you want to join us, beyondmystic.net/Cathar is the place you want to be. A couple of links there to the documentaries and also this reading that Meg and Janine did maybe last week here on the subject matter as well. So I'm going to play a clip for that, and I'm also going to play a clip here from Paul Wallace's documentary here, The Cathars, The Truth Untold. So let me start there. We have maybe 2 or 3 minutes to listen to here. Paul Wallace, you can find him, of course, at The Fifth Kind here on YouTube. I had him on the show last year with Jay in the same series. We were talking about the Elohim and the Angel Deception Decode. If you haven't seen those episodes with Paul, please do go back about a year in the feed here and you'll find that one. So let's listen to what Paul has to say here to set up the context for our conversation here on the Cathars.
Do you ever wonder if your occasional flashes of genius are actually being fed to you by another version of yourself, a higher self, or your subconscious? Do you sometimes feel that you don't really belong here, that your true home is far away among the stars? Do you sometimes feel that you have memories of another life, or that you may have been a different gender in another life? Do you feel deeply that the genders are equal, including with regard to leadership? Do you believe that animals have souls and feel so compassionate towards our fellow animals that you really struggle with the idea of eating them? Do you feel that you are sharper, more alert, more creative, better able to think clearly when you fast or eat more lightly? On a more theological note, do you, like me, believe that the God figure in the Old Testament is really a very dark, violent, and anti-human presence in the biblical story? Are you, like me, disturbed by the way the cross has been used through the ages as a symbol of empire, colonization, enslavements, and all kinds of violence? Do you, like me, believe that spirituality or a life of prayer can be expressed without the need to be sucked into religion or churchianity? If you think some or all of those things, then right now you are in the flow of Cathar thought. To some, these ideas may seem rather obvious. To others, these kinds of ideas are an assault and a threat to orthodox religious belief. In the 11th to 13th centuries, these ideas and the people who held them were so threatening that 19 successive popes dispatched armies for more than 100 years, chiefly to the south of France, until as many as 1 million people, men, women, and children, had been wiped from the face of the earth. And not just for believing these things, but for living in the same town with people who believed these things. The Cathars represented a spiritual tradition which flowered in the 11th to 13th centuries in Italy and in the Languedoc in the south of France. Their beliefs and their way of life differed from those of medieval Catholicism. In a Europe rife with crime and violence, Cathar communities became renowned for their peaceful, productive, and egalitarian life. In fact, Cathar communities were so functional and healthy that their neighbors referred to them as the Cathars, which means the pure ones or the good people. But there was something about the Cathars which the Roman Catholic leadership of the 13th century regarded with such horror and contempt that a papal campaign was launched, a military campaign that lasted more than 100 years, a campaign prosecuted by 19 successive popes determined to assassinate every single Cathar in Europe. When the papal campaign arrived at the town of Bezier, the military forces had a problem. Now, Bezier was a town of around 20,000 people, among whom about 200 were Cathars. And so this threw up the obvious question: how do we tell which are the Cathars and which are the regular Catholics? The military command of this assault was a Benedictine monk, not the sort of person you'd expect to be leading an army, but indeed he was, and his name was Arnaud Almaric. When his officers approached him to say, "How do we know who to kill?" his answer went down in history: kill them all. God will recognize his own. That gives you some idea of the sense of urgency in this 100-year campaign.
Kill them all and let God sort them out. That's fascinating here. So we're talking about 19 consecutive popes, over a 100-year campaign, over 1 million dead. All of this for a spiritual path, and even people living amongst the people who were living and believing these higher teachings and higher knowledges. Now, in history, we've seen this happen time and time again, whether that was the Taoists who seemed to be eliminated per the king's reign, whether it's the Cathars in this case, or more recently in our time, the truther community, through this whole censorship apparatus, the deplatforming, being removed from the economic exchange with their fellow humans. There's always been this driving force behind the scenes to quash down anything that is outside this matrix of narrative of control. Let's bring that into today, watching that documentary. How does that hit you, and how do you think that relates to the times that we're living in right now, and whether or not we do have, at this point in time, perhaps Cathars being reincarnated now to serve this revenge to what has been done to them over 700 years ago, Jay?
Oh, well, that's interesting because I can tell you that Terence McKenna once told me that he thought he was a reincarnated Cathar. I've had several people that you would know, but they're still alive, and I don't want to speak for them because they told me in private, but they thought that they were reincarnated Cathars. And I myself think that I am a reincarnated Cathar from a series of dreams I had in my late teens, in which I could not explain anything that was going on until later when I found books about the Cathars and started reading about them, when finally it all started making sense. As for the Siege of Bezier, the Simone de Montfort called the mayor of Bezier down. We had 60,000 troops surrounding the town, and he called the mayor down and said, just give me the 200 Cathars and we'll call it even. We'll go on. And the mayor said, no, they're our neighbors, they're our friends, and we can't do that. And I'm sorry. And so Simone de Montfort went into Bezier, killed every single person. They finally grouped themselves up in the cathedral with like 4,000 people stuck in, crammed into this cathedral, thinking that the Catholic army isn't going to burn down their cathedral. But no, they did. They piled wood all around it and lit it on fire and killed everybody in the cathedral. And this was just the beginning of horrifying series of actions that went on for over 30 years. And like what's his name just said, Paul, over 100 years. I mean, there was another 60 years after the Siege of Bezier when, they just kept going out after him, the remnant population. And do I think there's a link to what's going on today? Yeah, I do. I think that starting in the late 60s, a new mindset, and I was there to witness it, a new mindset began creeping in. It scared everybody in the establishment. And it's hard to imagine, but I grew up, in the Midwest in a farming family, and nobody thought animals had souls. Okay. Nobody. It was not even the idea. I firmly believe that animals have souls. I have a lot of animals around me, and I can tell you that they come from some kind of long incarnation tradition, and they each have their own personality that they seem to come with them, so no, I completely think differently than my father and my grandfather, who were hardcore. My father was a farmer, but my grandfather was, and then the whole Protestant tradition came out of this. People don't realize the Protestant tradition, the Huguenots and all of them, they came out of the south of France and the north of Italy. And I've spent a lot of time in south of France and the north of Italy investigating the Cathars in the mid-90s. I had a benefactor, and he thought he was a reincarnated Cathar too. He's very wealthy, and he funded my trips to France and Italy, where I went to all the famous Cathar sites. I got them all on film, and fascinating adventure. And as I was doing this research from 96 to 2000, I began to piece together that, this is where alchemy was embedded in the Cathar tradition. And this is where several different kinds of traditions were embedded, which later erupted into the Protestant Reformation. And then actually, believe it or not, the Puritans were super hardcore Cathars. So Cathars weren't like ubiquitous. They had wings, and left wing and right wing. And the right wing was like super disciplined, really disciplined. They didn't believe that you should get married. If you did get married, you'd only have sex to have children. You should never have pleasurable sex. They were very severe, and then the rest of them weren't so severe. And then I believe the Puritans came from that tradition, and founded America, to be honest with you. And so the Cathars were incredibly fascinating, very deep. And the reason that they are a threat to the Catholic Church was because they believed that anyone in authority was actually a servant of the devil, the demiurge, whom they thought was the devil. And so there was a giant debate in Albi in France, beautiful town in the Languedoc. And there was a big debate. And the head of the Cathars against Archbishop that the Pope chose. And there's this giant debate, and thousands of people attended. And it was generally given that the Cathar part of the debate won. I mean, he was pointing out all the materialism that the church had, all the biggest landowner on earth at the time, probably still are, and just saying, look at your vestments, look at your clothing. Why do you spend so much on that? Why are you so interested in material goods? And just like decimated it. And so the guy went back to Pope Innocent III and said, "Oh boy, I just got decimated." And he made the church
didn't work. Yeah.
No, that didn't work. And he made the church look terrible and really pissed off Innocent III. And Innocent III called his general in and said, "Get the ships out and go there." And the first place they hit was Bezier, and then it just swept all the way across France, southern France, as this army swept through until finally they hit Toulouse, where Raymond of Toulouse, a famous warrior, he's like, because the Cathars didn't want to fight. That's the problem. They were pacifists. Right. So they didn't want to fight. So they're getting rolled over. And finally, I actually wrote a whole movie script about this, by the way. And so when you're making me come on the show, I had to go back and do all this research because I couldn't remember what I had done 20, 30 years ago almost. And so I read my script and all these books again over the last few days. And Raymond de Toulouse is this badass dude, man. And he's like, no, we're not going to let this happen. And so he mounted an army and he lost, but he did manage to kill the mean old Simon de Montfort in the Battle of Toulouse. And again, they lost. And then this became the route that created the final end at Mount Ségur, which, the Cathars thought was a remote place that they could escape to. But, people gave them away. And finally, the Roman army surrounded them at Mount Ségur, where for over a year, I've been to Mount Ségur. It's an amazing place. And then eventually 230 or 40 Cathars gave up. There was no water and there was no food and they were starving to death. And they came down the mountain and they were all burned at the stake in a very horrifying fashion. Yeah, Raymond, the Count of Toulouse, was the hero of my movie.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I encourage people to go and watch that. Where can they find that still, Jay?
There is no film. It was a screenplay.
Okay, I see.
It was deemed that would cost in 1999, it would cost $150 million to make. And
oh, wow.
Well, everybody actually liked it and really wanted to do it. It was, how are you going to get 60,000 Catholic army to fight 30,000 Toulousians, and gigantic
it would have been an
battles.
Epic sandal and sword movie. Yeah. We would have needed, what's his face, who just re-recorded, what's the last one that just came out? The part 2. What am I talking about? You and I talked about this. They're in the Colosseum and there's water and there's ships. What's that? The last movie that just came out a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I'll find it. Anyways, Ridley Scott just directed that movie. Anyways, it was a big sandal and sword kind of movie. I can imagine the budget behind that one. Now, the Cathars apparently here if you go back in history, you talked about the reincarnation process. It's very possible that we've seen this thought, this idea, this way of being re-emerge over the yugas of time, and that every time they emerge, they were a threat to the power structure at hand. Now, this is the one big last iteration of this, and it appears, if you listen to researchers, that whether it was the crown or the religious structure itself, decided once and for all that these senior Cathars needed to be burnt, and it appears that they wanted to burn them to prevent them from reincarnating, so that they would not have to face them into the future. Did you touch upon that in your research? Can you explain that, why perhaps that was the idea, and perhaps more specifically why it didn't work, Jay?
Yeah, there's a big argument among, I guess, mystically minded people that are, very astute, that burning a body right after death or at death destroys the ability of the ku. So in the Egyptian light body, we have the ka, the ba, and the ku. The ka is the physical self soul. The ba is your kind of eternal soul, and your ku is the soul that flies up into what I call the plasma cloud that exists around the earth and becomes part of that. Three different aspects. The theory is that if you burn the body, okay, I want to explain this right because it's really important.
Take your time.
When you're buried in the ground, your bones are there, and this causes the ka to manifest and stick around longer, just for a while before it finally dissipates. And this is so that the ka can learn lessons of that life that it just lived. I know this Russian scientist who used to do Kirlian photography on dead bodies that had come in at the morgue in St. Petersburg. And he would do, photograph them with Kirlian photography. And he told me that everybody's Kirlian body was gone after 3 days, except for suicides, which they stayed, which I found fascinating. So I think what burning, what the argument between all these two groups is that one group says, oh yeah, burning and cremating is really good. And it's really, the second group says, no, you need to let the ka manifest itself for a little bit of while after death so that it can learn the lessons of its life. If you burn it, then you cause it to retard, or it's probably not the right word, but become stilted. And I think that's what burning is about. Burning, say Joan of Arc or whoever, is because you don't want this person to come back and haunt you, right, in your lifetime. So you want to make sure that this guy is as far away from you as possibly can get. And so I believe that. So I've actually instructed my family, do not cremate me. I do not want to be cremated. We have a cremation mill here in our area, and everybody's getting cremated. I keep trying to tell them, don't do that. Don't get cremated. That's not what you want to do. And if you are going to get cremated, put yourself on ice for a couple of weeks before you do it.
So the process can happen before,
Yeah, so you give yourself the time to process. So I believe, of course, that the church understands all of this, as known it all the way from the beginning, and that's why they burned everybody at the stake, and all the Cathars got burned at the stake. That was the way that they killed them. I mean, if you go back and look at the drawings and the artwork from the time, it's people in flames, right? And they enjoyed it. They would laugh. All the Romans would. Catholic Church guys would laugh and scream with laughter as they watch the Cathars getting burnt, and it's quite horrific. And I don't know if there's ever been a crusade like the Albigensian Crusade, and You know, because it was Christian against Christian. The other crusades were Christians against Muslims. And so this one was a really rather, and the fact that they were Gnostic, the fact that their belief of Jesus was at odds with the Catholic Church. So the Cathars didn't believe that Jesus came here to redeem us or that Jesus died for us. They believed that Jesus came here from the Godhead to teach us that we are in a trap, that we are in a materialistic trap, and that the only way to get out of the trap is to realize you're in the trap first off, and then take the consolamentum, pray and get rid of your sins and don't sin anymore and don't lie and don't cheat, and then that way you redeemed yourself and you can go back to what I call the great plasma cloud that we all came from to begin with, and which they called the I can't remember now what they called it. They had a name for the place that you go. I'll probably come up with that name here soon. But the pleroma, they believe that you went into the pleroma, which was this giant cloud with spirit. It was all spirit, and that where the Cathars thought that all of creation was the work of the devil, that was really the more extreme view of it. That's not really what they thought. They thought that the demiurge had entered into this reality and screwed with it and
Created
made us
this trap basically for these souls.
that he was the God and created the trap. But the Cathars had actually created the way out of the trap. And that was that they lived at peace with the land. They were vegetarians. They lived in really one of the most beautiful places on earth, honestly.
The perfecti,
The perfecti. And, honest with each other. Don't lie. Keep your passions at bay. Be stoic. Don't when you're struck, don't strike back. There's no point in getting in a fight. And the mindset of the cabal is hard to understand if you're a normal person. Okay, but the mindset is they hate nice things. Mm-hmm. That's what they hate Bach. They hate people who live out in the country with their children and grow their own food and all of that. It drives them crazy. And so they want to destroy it. I know that's hard to understand. I can't understand it either. Why would you want to destroy that which is beautiful, that which is truthful, that which is filled with love? But they do. And it's going on today. Everywhere we look, we see these giant forces at work trying to stop families from being happy, trying to stop people from celebrating Christmas. You go on and on. You get on the internet and just look at what there's this group of people that wants everybody to be unhappy. I guess they're unhappy, they're neurotic, and so they have to pass it on and make sure that we're all unhappy. Mm-hmm. And so the greatest defense as a reincarnated Cathar to tell you is don't let them make you unhappy. Be happy all the time. And when they try to make you unhappy, try to do everything you can to show them that you're not unhappy. And I heard a fascinating near-death experience the other day. This woman, she was feeling very ill for a couple of weeks, and then one day she went into the bathroom and she fell and she hit her head really hard on the toilet, and she died. And she was dead for, I don't know, like an hour and a half, 2 hours. But when she died, she said she went to this place, and the first place she went to was this room filled with these dark demonic creatures who were telling her how ugly she was, how horrible her life was, how terrible she was, how many lies she had told. And she said, no, I just kept arguing back with them. No, that's not true. No, that's not true. I didn't do that. You're just making that up. And she said, after a while, they got fatigued and they left. and left her alone. And then she had this amazing experience in the afterlife and really cool story. But it's interesting that the first thing that she hit were these demonic, archonic energies that want her to feel bad, that want her to be unhappy. And the best weapon we have against these demonic creatures is to love them to death. You know, just tell them how much you love them all the time, and they'll go away. They don't want to hear it. No way. And this is the forces that killed the Cathars. And the same forces are at work today. We just watched them. We've been watching them now ever since 2020 with the you know what started.
In a big way.
And face it, they want us dead. I mean, I'm sorry, but you know, there's no other way I can look at it. They don't want me here. They don't want you here. They don't want us here. Why not? I don't know. Because we can make a better life here, but it has to have it has to be decentralized. It has to be with discipline, and it has to be with love, truth, and beauty. And those were the values that the Cathars had and what they possessed. And they loved their animals and were horrified when the Catholic army came in and killed their horses and their dogs and their cows. And, you know, they would go out and mourn over them at night, crying. And then the Catholics thought that was really funny. Yeah. They think that cow actually had a soul, right? And so this is the kind of values that we need to come back to us now. And I think they're coming back. I think that we are. I love the whole idea that you know, I'd never heard that story, by the way, until you told me about it, about the Cathar that predicted they would all come back in 700 years. I don't know how I missed that story, but I did miss that story. So that's just fascinating. And now this is 700 years later, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know that they had predicted, although some researchers are suggesting that perhaps the war that we're in now is a 700-year-old war in the making, and that somehow all of those who died on the fire had their long sleep, so to speak, were able to reintegrate, whether or not they were not supposed to come back and fight this war. Apparently, they're in here now. I'll get into exactly that because Meg and Janine did a poll on that. I'll play that clip in just a moment. But before I do so, you mentioned the Languedoc region. We talked about the Basque region, I think you and I in a previous show, and how it is a hotbed still to this day for negative blood types. Did you, across your research, ever put them together, whether or not the Basque were predominantly Rh negative? Did that come up in the research at all? And does it make sense that people are bringing that together even now in the chat?
Yeah, I know they are. And they're very unusual genetics with the Basque people. And, you know, their legends that they have are that they came to the south of France and Spain after a gigantic catastrophe happened. And when you look at their language, it's very close to Quechua in Peru. And the Cross of Henday predicts that, you know, in the catastrophe, you go to the caves in Peru because they're up so high that you'll avoid any flooding, and the caves itself will protect you from any atmospheric things. So, you know, they very well could, because they do have the kind of that olive skin and the dark hair that the Quechua have from Peru. And so the Basque are very interesting people, and they have their own creation myths that are very, very amazing. But I don't think the Basque are associated with the Cathars. Cathars were further east from the Basque. The Cathars were really Alsace-Lorraine, Languedoc. My family came from Alsace-Lorraine, and they were a mixture of really French and Germans, kind of. And they had that kind of the French mysticism with the German Stoic attitude. And so it was a strange combination of Stoicism and mysticism, and incredibly fascinating culture. And Rowan, exactly. Mm-hmm. And there was a good movie about that too, by the way. So anyway, that's where this all came from. And and I think, with the new revolution that's going on right now, appears to look like it's a kind of a Cathar revolution, a denial of the demiurge, a denial of his authority, a denial of the people who support him and what he does, and a thorough thrashing of the religious landscape that's going on right now.
Okay, so again, the story of this recurring theme, or the counterbalance perhaps to this demiurge and the trap, there seems to be a family of souls that have been reincarnating through time. We talked about briefly earlier the Taoists also, who have some of the same kind of practices, and who often in the time of war are the first ones to be eliminated here because they hold such powerful knowledge. And again, here are the Cathars holding this knowledge against this, what they call the trap, was detrimental to them here moving forward. So is the same case now for the truthers, the investigators, the people who want the truth now, who want peace, who want the beauty in life and the joy in life to come back, right? We're all on that same track. So let me play this a clip. This is Meg asking Janine. This was in one of our pay-per-view shows. I believe it was Thursday. And a big thank you to Meg for subbing in for me this week on the pay-per-view. She did an amazing job. I was subbing in for Coco. Guys, if you didn't know, Coco was on vacation, so we kind of all alternated the jobs here between the team so that we could still produce 24 episodes this week. So big thank you for Meg for stepping in for me in that show on that day. So let's play this clip here and we'll come back. Here she's asking whether or not... she's already asked in the first segment of this, and guys, the links are in the show notes. If the Cathars are indeed back right now, and if these souls are starting to remember their mission and why they're here right now, the answer was a big resounding yes, if you look at the previous poll. But on this second poll, she's asking, will they win this time? Because in all of those previous incarnations, they usually end up dead in the dungeon or burnt on a fire. And we wanted to know here, does it change this time? Is it the astrology? Is it karmic? What's about to happen right now? So let's hear about this poll.
Will the Cathars win this time?
Let's take these all up for that one.
Because that was freaking brutal. 700 years ago, burned at the stake, all these kind of tortures for doing natural spirituality. Wow. Which a lot of us, I think, have had past life experiences in those times. I notice that comes up a lot in readings that I do.
That's a big thing in our community. People watching our shows, they very much resonate with this message. And it does come out in the readings, both the astrology and also the tarot.
Very spiritual, two really spiritual cards.
Wow.
So as a reminder, the question was, will the Cathar win this time?
Oh, that's incredible.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with yes.
Yeah.
But before we do get to that, I feel like some people will say no. Okay. Some people will look on the outside and say no. I feel like in our soul and spiritually, we'll definitely win. We're already winning. Okay. But some people will say no. And I feel like the reason they'll say no is, think about it. We're going to lose a lot of people. So that looks like a no. I know a lot of people that don't like that their way of living, even though they've been enslaved and they're just maybe not willing to admit it yet or whatever. They don't like that. They're not going to like that it was taken away. So a lot of people will have to take their time to realize what we won or are winning. And it won't always look like winning.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that we'll be witnessing, and like this card says, in our soul, we'll know we did over time. Okay. But it's not going to be a real obvious big win, because look at all the people we lost, the friendships we lost, I lost my mom, and we weren't even on speaking terms, and it was over the whole pandemic and vax fights about that.
Mm-hmm.
Not being invited to things. I wasn't speaking to her. I can't get that time back. I lost my brother, and you better believe he had turbo cancer, and he was all, you know, people convinced him he was vulnerable, so he needed to get vaxxed every which way. I lost a good friend from a heart attack. All the ways they say are happening with these vaxes. Okay. That's 3, and that's not even like that. Those are the closest ones. There's been a lot more. So all of us were losing people. We got way more to chalk up here as the years roll on here. So in a way, yes, but in another way, you know, it won't always look like that.
Yeah, it can come at a price sometimes, like
what some people call a Pyrrhic victory. Now, what are your thoughts on that? She mentioned a couple of things, and I realize now we're probably going to have to drop that part from the YouTube section after the show. But what do you make of that here? Are we winning right now? It seems like a yes, but it's mitigated because a lot of people are still watching the movie in Plato's Cave, and maybe they don't want to come out of that movie, Jay.
Well, yeah, that was one of the things when the slaves were freed in the United States. A lot of them didn't want to go off the plantation because it was nice and comfortable. And so, yeah, I think it's a long struggle ahead of us. It's not going to happen easy. And they're going to come up with devious ways to stop what we're doing. But I think we're winning now. And I think there's a great danger that we'll fall asleep and then start losing again. So I think it's important that we keep everybody frosty and on their toes about all of this, and continue the fight, because the fight just began. I mean, we're not even the pre-fight went for the last 30 years. Now the fight's finally reaching a point where first off, they recognize that we're even there. And then now they realize that we're gaining power and control over the situation. And then that's going to create its own kind of counterbalance. So we can't fall asleep right now.
Well, let me ask you on that, because Janine and I have been trying our best in the last year or so as we saw the momentum move forward. We saw that the predictions were that Trump was going to win this campaign. We still wanted to warn the audience members not to fall back into this sense of complacency that, oh, the White Hats have it all, they won, they have it all, don't have to do anything basically anymore. And when we do bring those warnings up, we often get, oh, you guys are fake pretend patriot, you're anti-Trumpers, or whatever derogatory term you can come up with.
Yeah.
But no, we're like, no, we're encouraged by what we see, but we very much need to be implicated here every day, every minute of every hour moving forward to make sure we keep their feet to the fire. And like you and what Janine and Meg were saying, the fight's just begun. And also, if you remember one of the predictions from the Webbot, I think it was 2021, where he was saying that this is one of those wars where only after winning the war would we feel all the casualties. Well, this is coming up big time in the readings in the last couple of months, that 2025, we're going to see a lot of death. A lot of that is an echo from the last couple of years. And there's also the death related to the killings that are part of the melee that is developing right now. So what do you say to the people who say, oh, JC, you're too negative. The White Hats have it all. We've just won. Everything's great. We're singing YMCA here at the rally. Why are you guys pissing on our son or on our parade? Jay, what do you say to them?
I say I'm glad you're optimistic, and I'm also share that optimism right now, but I'm wary, and I've been around the block, and I know that anything can happen. And here's the thing: is are they really going to allow them to look into the 350,000 missing children? Is that really going to happen? Are they really going to deport 12 million people? I'm not sure that that's going to happen. I don't know if we have the resources even to do that. And I think what will happen is that they're going to slash the government spending like there's no tomorrow. I think what will happen maybe is that United States is probably going to acquire at least 2 Canadian provinces, if not 4 or 5, over the next 4 years. I really believe that could happen. The Maritime provinces and Alberta and Saskatchewan. And I can see Quebec going on its own, and even British Columbia going on its own, because nobody wants British Columbia. Right. So So I think that there's a giant remake going on at the moment that is going to bring the United States into an incredibly powerful position. And how we use that power is yet to be seen. So it's just never seen so many changes going on in my life as there are going on right now. And not all of them are positive. So we have to be really careful because there's a lot of weird stuff going on, especially with the drones and the plasma objects that people are seeing. And, 2 reports came out in 2024 by mainstream scientists saying that there are plasma orbs in the atmosphere. They're sentient, they show intelligence, and they may even be a danger to airlines flying in the sky. So there's like this is the biggest change in attitude and politics and everything that I've ever seen. I would say that we're going to shrink the government. We're going to bring all the troops home. We're going to stop all the stupid wars. And we're moving into the Dwapara Yuga. And this is a yuga where we're ascending too, on top of everything else. So every day we get a little bit smarter, we get a little bit more enlightened. And the Cross of Henday, which talks all about this, it was built by, probably a Freemason. So yeah, so they know all about this. They study this. They've got monuments to it. They know what's going on, and so we're at that point now, and it's getting undeniable. That's the interesting thing now. It was sort of, is it really happening or is it not? And I predicted that Trump wouldn't get elected because I didn't think they'd want the him to look into the child trafficking and all of that. But I think now there's no stopping it. And so I would look for a lot of people to jump ship, trash their exes and their friends, and do everything they can to save themselves. And it's going to be really a lot of fun to watch.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Jay, we're already at the hour mark, so we won't have time to decode some of the stuff that Cliff High sent me. I have a screenshot here, guys, on the screen. I'll put it in the notes also. It's a little bit small here because there was a lot of data. He just ran a report last night. I asked him, and he sent me this earlier today. But he's saying there at the top of the page, we'll leave you on this. But he says, 5 years out, you will not credence the level of change. That's how fast and furious it's happening. He's talking about a very weird February as well. Lots of contention there. Generally speaking, also in the next couple of months, he's seeing a lot of evidence of fighting in the sky, and some of those fights resulting in things falling down through roofs in the mountain where we can get at. So there's a lot of weird things there too. And then the thing you just said, specific groups here feeling the heat, so to speak, and trying to get out of Dodge. We're going to see a lot of that trying to organize themselves to leave the United States or to go into hiding. That is also very much in the data there. So a lot of frenetic activity for sure here moving forward. And it appears that this February or 18th to 23, I think, of February here, we have another big emotional spike there. Something happens. And there's also apparently here a big boom, maybe tomorrow or tomorrow evening. We're not sure yet what that could be. Here he was saying that the data, it might be an earthquake being generated. But something is weird tomorrow evening. Not sure what yet. It could be the release of some of this information, the list you're talking about now, that would be earth shaking, ground shaking type of thing too. So it could be what's coming up there. Now, to some extent, I'm with you. He did reiterate tonight that he was committed to putting out the information on the JFK assassination, Martin Luther King, the Kennedy assassination. But he didn't really get into the Epstein list tonight. So I'm with you on that. I'm not sure how far they want to go there. I'm not sure how far the people are still ready to that. Here in Canada, it's the same thing. The Conservatives talk a big game about foreign interference, but they're really not pushing for it because I believe there might be some of their candidates that are also involved in it. So this whole child trafficking thing, we might not see what we think we're going to see yet on that. Although it could be part of this Earth shaking here tomorrow. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Trump did change the location here of the inauguration. He's going inside. We're talking about this polar vortex. By the way, it's minus 30 tonight here where I am. It's pretty effing cold.
Minus 10 here.
Yeah, what's that?
Minus 10 here.
Minus 10. Okay, yeah. And he's saying not just the cold, but people are reporting also that there might be still some threats. And if you just mentioned the drones, there was this idea that perhaps they were searching from some suitcase nukes or something like that. And that could be still the case here for DC. And maybe that's the earthquake here that could be popping off tomorrow. If you were to bet tomorrow, do we have an inauguration as planned? Do we have delays? Any surprises? What do you think?
Oh, well, I'm glad they moved it indoors. And no, I think everything's going to come off fine. I think that the opposition is just, punch drunk and they don't know what to do right now. They will recover, though. And so I would look for something weird to start happening as the fringe elements begin getting more and more angry because it still hasn't registered with them because they've been so brainwashed and MK Ultra by their media that the whole thing, even 75 days later, still hasn't registered. So, it's going to get really, really weird. I would have to say that Cliff is right. I would look for weird violence too coming here soon, and I can kind of feel it. I mean,
everybody's
nothing more when you have a whole belief system and then have it completely proven wrong. Once you get over the shock, it's just anger, and that's what's going to happen next. But right now the shock is in and we don't have to worry about too much.
And you're right. Those friends I talked about who are still kind of in that fetal position, I think they're still in shock. They might be feeling anger here and there. You could see it in their tweets, you could see it in their comments, but they're not full-blown anger yet. They haven't gone to that phase yet. I think that's coming up very soon, and that's going to be difficult for them for sure, but also for us. I'll get your last words on that, maybe on how to mitigate that at the end of the show. But speaking of the Cathars, the Perfecti, the creating the new world outside of this trap, that was the genesis, of course, of creating this conference here for the Beyond Mystic team. This is going to be in March 14, 15, and 16 here in Ottawa. And the theme there is a woo beginning, right? So far we had finance and also consciousness as a big keynote. We had Andy Sheckman and Penny Kelly coming. Now, Jay, do you have anything else you would like to share with the audience members about this conference coming up and how perhaps alchemy might play a big part?
I'll probably be giving a talk there on alchemy and how we're moving into this new world. And it sounds really fun. I love Canada, especially that part of Canada, because the food is so good. And I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been out of here in, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years. I've just been, I have a ranch, so I have to take care of all my animals. And so I have to find somebody to take care of everything because I got cows and chickens and dogs and cats and sheep, and it's just too much for me.
It's always hard to leave when you have a lot of animals, for sure. Well, we are going to welcome you with big open arms. Guys, you heard it here first. Jay is considering joining us here in Ottawa on March 14, 15, and 16. If you want to check that out, please go to beyondmystic.net/conference. You'll see all the details there. There's still some tickets available, as well as the online streaming pass for you guys. It's going to be one hell of a woo beginning here into 2025. Jay, let's end the show on this this idea of creating the new world. For a lot of people watching the show tonight, and the people who might forward that to their friends and families, they might listen to that and grab on or have this kind of reaction to perhaps their memory or their DNA memory about this Cathari way of life. And if it hits them and they have an inkling of a hope and the joy and the beauty that comes from it, they might be interested in putting that into motion. But they might very soon realize that that is a very fearful thing to do, given that the matrix of control is still very much at play in trying to dissuade people from leaving Plato's cave, so to speak. So let's talk about the courage it takes, and what message would you have for people here to use courage to move forward in those ideas and philosophies of the Cathars and how that can very much help us not just break from this matrix of control, but create the new for ourselves moving forward. Jay.
Yeah, so the universe loves courage, and it removes barriers for the courageous. And so, by being courageous, you're literally break down the matrix of reality, and it like begins to like almost respect you. And so, one of the nicest compliments I ever got from my dad, he was like 90 years old, and he called me up one day. He said, "Man, I've never known anyone in my life who took more risks than you do." He said, "I can't believe it. And you actually managed to succeed on most of them." And I said, "Yeah, because, at first you fail, but if you keep being courageous, eventually you're going to win." And by the way, 34 years ago today, I started my radio show in Seattle, Mind Over Matters. And I literally was talking about all of this stuff. And people were saying, "You're crazy. You're crazy. You're getting on the radio and you're saying this stuff. You must be out of your mind." And I thought at first maybe I was out of my mind, but I saying it, and I realize now that, I don't know if I had anything to do with what's going on in the world right now. I had a little bit to do with it. And I believe everyone who has stood up in the last 30 years against the cabal has exhibited incredible courage. And I don't think anyone following us will ever understand that. And that's all right. I mean, they'll never understand how the world was when we started out telling everybody what a BS world they're living in. So that's how I feel. And again, I'm very optimistic, more optimistic than I've ever been. And I think we're going down the right path. I think the Cathar energy is returning. I fully expect to see a lot of weird stuff happening in the near future. I think AI is going to take over a lot of women's jobs, the clerical jobs. So women are not going to be as unemployed as they used to be. And I see that the jobs for men are actually going to shift. They're going to be more like a mechanic and a plumber and a carpenter and that kind of thing. So we're actually going back to this kind of weird world of family oriented, but we're taking our toys with us, our high-tech toys with us. And that's going to be the difference between the dark dystopian future that they want for us and the decentralized free energy, taking our high-tech toys with us, return to nature that the Cathar reincarnated people are advocating for.
Right. So it's the majestic way of the old with the new added with this technology, but still the decentralization of that power, I think, is critical in that description you just gave. That's beautiful. Do you want to give away some prizes, Jay? Do you have time?
Sure.
I have 2 prizes to give away. Okay. Do you have a question with a one-word answer? Something we talked about? It could be a name, a place, a date, something where you can ask the audience members here. What do you think? Am I catching you by surprise?
A one-word answer.
Yeah. It could be the temperature right now at your house. You just mentioned it. We can ask that. Something easy like that, just so that we can poll the audience members here. What do you think?
Okay. How cold is it in southern Colorado right now?
There you go. That's an easy one. Guys, I hope you were paying attention. And while we wait for that to populate in the chat, of course, we're going to be giving away this beautiful pyramid from Carla at Ascension Organized.
Oh, beautiful.
Aurora pyramid. Absolutely beautiful one here. Absolutely. If you go to Ascension Organized, .com right now. Also, I think the Shungite pendants, yes, are on sale at 25% off. So do check that out as well while you're there. And also, please don't forget to go check out Jay here on his YouTube channel at Reality Check. Lots of cool new videos there as well. And he's closing in there on the 50K mark. So let's give him a boost and go subscribe there to his channel. Jay, when you're ready, let me know here when to stop the feed and we'll pick a winner here.
Okay. Oh, cool. Oh, we all got it. You got lots of winners. Yep.
Yeah. Don's breaking. Don's breaking.
You're paying attention.
Paying attention. You're the winner.
Yep.
Please come to the top of beyondmystic.net here at the top of the page. Fill out the tech support form. Let us know you're the winner of the pyramid. We'll send that out to you as well. And also, we have a beautiful candle to give away tonight. You have another cool question, Jay? What do you think?
What is the name of the ritual that the Cathars practiced to create their perfecti?
Very good. What is the name of the ritual? We spoke about it at the beginning of the show. While we wait for that one to populate in the live chat, also, let me reset that also, just to make sure we're there. Yes. And the bottom of the page. Yes. While we wait for those answers to populate, some people watch on delay, and usually I used to pick the first winner, and people get angry at me. So we'll let that populate here in just a moment.
Yep.
While we're there, also, Jay, of course, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you're the producer here of a Clockwork Shining. You and I did a decode on this about a month or two ago. It was absolutely fascinating, as well as the JFK X solving the crime of the century. Guys, if you haven't seen both of these documentaries, they're in the description box below. And Jay, I understand you're working on a brand new project also that is coming and maybe focusing on alchemy. Can you share with the audience members a little bit what that looks like?
Yeah, I'm working with, I decided to start working with younger people. I'm working with a woman who's, I think, 30 or early 30s, Helena Resner. I believe she's a relative of Trent Reznor. And we're working on a series, we hope, called The Invisible Universe. We're making the pilot right now. We just shot Andrew Collins, and Robert Temple is in 2 weeks. So we'll have it all shot in 2 weeks, and then the editing will be done. And if it doesn't sell as a series to Amazon or Netflix, we'll just put it out as a documentary. But there's enough material here to create at least 2 or 3 seasons, and I'd like to do that. I'm trying to help a whole bunch of younger filmmakers because they can't get a break anymore because the markets are so stultified. And so I kind of devoted myself to putting out this esoteric knowledge and helping young people get a break.
That's wonderful. I can't wait to see it. And if we can help in any way, bring attention to it when you're ready, just let us know.
Sure.
And we'll be happy to do our part there, Jay. So let me go back to the live chat here. Jay, let me know when to stop the feed, and we'll pick a winner here for the candle. Stop. Okay, hold on. My cursor's there. Merci, Clément. There you go. You're the winner.
She's got it.
Yeah, very good. Congratulations. Consolamentum, yes, was the name and the answer to Jay's question. Jay, finally, one last thing here. You and I had talked about doing a movie decode last time, and you wanted to go back and review it. Do you remember? Was it the Chinatown, or was it the Demi Moore movie you wanted to watch again? Was it that one?
It was Chinatown.
Chinatown. And what do you think? Do we still want to put it on the board?
Yeah, no, I've got some info on the cast and the background of Chinatown, which is all lurid Hollywood stuff that everybody's just going to chew up like bacon. So, yeah, I would love to do it.
Okay, that's cool. Guys, in the meantime, of course, if you're looking at getting a better night's sleep, please do check out Pure Sleep here. The coupon code is Beyond Mystic. I'll get 15% off there. The links are in the shop page here on Beyond Mystic, as well as the C60 gummies also there at 50% discount. Same discount code here, Beyond Mystic. Neutralize those oxidative radicals and rebuild your body here for the fight to come. If you're a Cathari or a Cathar joining us in this new crazy woo world of ours, please do go check it out at beyondmystic.net/shop. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here tonight. This was the Wacky Woo with Mr. Jay Weidner. We'll see you again tomorrow for the weekly schedule here on Beyond Mystic. I love you guys. Have a great evening, and we'll see you soon. Au revoir.